Good morning to all of you out there. Welcome to the program agenda once again, and thank you for joining us this morning and for being subscribers of Cignal TV and watching us via channels 8 and 250, as well as on facebook.com/OneNewsPH and on YouTube, One News PH. And if you wish, you can download the Cignal Play app so you can watch us on the go. Maraming salamat po sa mga nanonood ng agenda, lalo na yung mga aburido na sa talpakan sa online sabong who are complaining about the curse. It is something I wrote on in my column in Cito in the Philippine Star today. Okay, today is December 1, 2021. We are officially in the Christmas month, okay? Although in the Philippines, everything started September. Anyway, we will now continue with the day, Wednesday. And so reminder to all of you out there in Metro Manila, National Capital Region, para lang dyan sa mga nasa syudad, the modified vehicle number coding scheme is once again in place, and it is effective at 5 p.m. this afternoon up to 8 p.m. in the evening. So just in case you are planning to drive to work, maybe you guys should have a meeting already what to do about work hours. Some of you can come to work at 6 in the morning. I get out at 5:30. I'm already working in the yard, so you can get up and be at the office at 6 if you wish and come home early. Di po ba? Para makaiwas sa number coding. Okay. Let's move on with the program. Let's start with an inspiration for today with our daily starter, which comes from 2 Corinthians chapter 4:17. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. Okay? In other words, whatever tests, trials, and tribulation you may be facing today, just declare it as a light and momentary trouble or problem because all this too, as they say, this too shall pass. And just like the Omicron, we have survived COVID, the original. We have survived COVID, the Delta. In fact, we have good news on the number of cases today. And I am certain that we will also survive COVID, the Omicron variant. So remember this passage from 2 Corinthians 4:17. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. And if you're still not convinced, well, look back. That's my technique. When things are really getting dark and dreary, I look back at the many times in my life that I faced horrendous, monumental challenges, life-threatening situation. And when you look back and how God rescued me from all of them, then everything we face now, including Omicron, is but light and momentary trouble. Okay, let's now go to the front page of the Philippine Star. For those of you who want to know what's going on, here's the front page for December 1. 3 Pinoys from South Africa placed under isolation. Now, don't go into a panic. These 3 Filipinos came from South Africa does not necessarily mean that they have COVID, nor does it mean that they have Omicron. It is a precautionary measure being observed by the Philippines, by the DOH, by the Negros Occidental, I think it's Negros Occidental, if I'm not mistaken, Negros Occidental government, just to be sure, because that is what the whole world is doing right now. So 3 Filipinos, and they are residents of La Carlota, Manapla, and Calatrava, and Negros Occidental, and they have all been placed under home quarantine to be tested and observed so that we are sure of what their condition is. So, and please, I appeal to the neighbors, the relatives, please don't treat them like lepers, because not just Filipinos, it's global. People just go into a panic, and instead of trying to become compassionate, checking in on the other family members, they go, oh, naku, we should have them sent to the hospital or isolation, etc. This is just a precautionary measure. Anyway, let's go on to the other parts of the front page of the Philippine Star and the header. No need for face shield requirement versus Omicron. None other than Rabindra Abaya Singh, who is the World Health Organization representative in the Philippines, said that there is no need to reinstate the face shield policy. Because what's more important is that people use or wear the face mask and observe social distancing and should observe any and all health protocols possible. Because what's happening is we're going to impose another burden, and what we should actually be doing is having 100% compliance with the wearing of face masks, social distancing, no mass gatherings, etc. Because that has been proven abroad in countries where they waived or loosen up the face mask requirement. Ayun, they have problems now. So it's not the imposition of face shields that is needed. It is the observation of the wearing of face mask, and that comes from none other than the World Health Organization representative in the Philippines. The World Health also said that they do not agree or they do not support calls for mandatory vaccine because they still believe, as an international organization, that vaccination should be on a voluntary basis. Okay, so you have a right to choose life or death, sickness or health. Okay, now the other part of the header of the Philippine Star, Senator, munti ko na sabihin presidential assistant kasi hindi mo na malaman talaga kung anong papel eh. Okay, Senator Bong Go exits from the presidential race. And the general comment in the Republic of the Philippines is, not news, no surprise, but Bongo says at the end of the day, he has to listen to his family, he has to respect his boss, and he should not add to anyone's misery. So he would rather just step back since he can still serve as senator. Well done, Senator Bongo. Okay, that big photo that you see is where I hope to be. Okay, in the near future. That's tourists watch the sunset at White Beach in Boracay on November 29. That's yesterday. Local tour guides and business owners in Boracay have expressed concern over the new COVID variant reaching their shore, saying they may lose their source of income if the island resort closes down again. Okay, that's a beautiful photo, but we really can't tell. But the good news, I think, is that an expert, I think in Johannesburg, South Africa, has stated that as far as she's concerned, and she's, I think, the president of the medical practitioners there, she has observed that among her parents, those with Omicron are manifesting light symptoms of COVID, like, scratchy throat, body aches. In other words, if that is the case, it's like having the flu. Ipagdasal po natin na ganun na nga, because chances are that may lead us to the road of endemic form that will be manageable, unlike Delta that really sowed havoc in the world. Okay, back to the front page. Phreatic eruption recorded in Pinatubo. Volcanologists, okay, have declared that Pinatubo has made its presence felt through phreatic eruption and therefore has put an alert, a warning to residents in the area. Please be careful. Do not make pasyal around the crater. Be conscious of the fact that that volcano still has activity because a lot of people said it was a dead volcano many years ago until it decided, excuse me, I'm still here. Okay, so that's Mount Pinatubo. No major alerts or eruptions, just a reminder that she exists. Okay. Now, the DILG has stated that LGUs can order mandatory vaccination because the discussion has been, should the national government issue a law or an executive order that requires mandatory vaccination. However, as it turns out, or as is claimed by the national government, the local governments, by virtue of the local government code, have the power, authority, and facility to impose mandatory vaccination as it sees fit. So, syempre naman po, unfortunately, whether you are for or against, the reality is most politicians won't touch that with a 10-foot pole. Why? Because elections are about to campaigns are already taking place. And the last thing a local government candidate wants to do is to piss off the voters by imposing mandatory vaccination and complicating their local operations. It's hard enough to run a city or a town while running your campaign, you will add pa that problem. Okay, reminder lang po doon sa mga sabongero, kung wala pa kayong sabong sa lugar nyo, huwag nyo iboto si Mayor, Vice Mayor at si Konsehal. Yan lang po ang ganti ninyo doon sa mga ayaw magbukas ng sabungan. Okay? For obvious reasons. Anyway, let's go to the other photo. There you go. You have President Rodrigo Duterte basically paying homage to Andres Bonifacio and other heroes of the Katipunan on its 158th birth anniversary, right? While on the lower part, you have Mayor Isko Moreno giving the address during the Bonifacio Day rites in the city's Liwasang Bonifacio. Okay. And related to that, you have the message of Isko Moreno saying, emulate Bonifacio's patriotism. Okay. Now, let's go to the tally of COVID-19 cases. The good news for the day, we have 425 cases nationwide as of yesterday, November 30. Bravo! That is really thin and slim if you spread that all over the 7,100 islands of the Republic. The number of deaths, praise the Lord, thank you, Lord, is only 44. Okay? It's sad if that one of those 44 is your loved one, a friend, family, and we still feel bad about that. But the good news is it's the first time we are down to double digits in a long time. Okay, God willing, we will crawl our way to the 49,000 level. But in the meantime, 48,545 Filipinos have passed away. Okay. Moving on, vaccination experts has Ronjin Solante has recommended that the policy on the children being allowed to go out in malls and public spaces should immediately be reviewed, especially with the discovery of Omicron variant COVID-19 and the fact or the suspicion that it is highly transmissible. Okay, so Dr. Solante gave that opinion in his interview with the Chiefs that also airs here on Cignal TV channels 8 and 250. Okay. Meanwhile, I don't know which one. Okay, modified number coding begins today. As I already stated, please be aware that as of 5 o'clock today, and today is a Wednesday, so numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Vehicles with plate numbers ending at 5 and 6 are not allowed to be in the city streets or roads of Metro Manila from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. And after that, you can all wreak havoc again going to the mall. But in the meantime, please be aware and do not scream at the MMDA enforcer if you get flagged down. Be nice because nice always gets you some consideration. Last but not the least, 80% of the people surveyed by the SWS says the next president must assert our rights in the West Philippine Sea. The question is, he and what Navy? Okay. Kasi you can assert your rights. Well, I guess he can go to the international court. We already won in the arbitral court ruling, but unfortunately, I guess more than anything, it is a matter of taking a stand and not vacillating or simply playing second fiddle to the position of China. Okay, and that's the news for today, December 1, 2021. Let me catch my breath. Okay, today we have a special guest. He is the president and executive officer of Manulife Philippines. He is also a board member of the company and is responsible for the overall strategy and development of Manulife's business in the Philippines. And he is a finance industry veteran, has a strong background in advancing insurance penetration in emerging markets in Asia. Before joining Manulife, he served as a CEO of a multinational insurance firm in Cambodia, where he spearheaded the company's market entry and launched its multi-channel operations. He is also involved in charity that supports adults with learning disabilities in Hong Kong. He holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Business Studies from the University of Portsmouth in England. Okay, we have with us, and I have to say this. When I first got his name, I had to give it a double look because I had to look twice because his name is exactly the same name as someone I know. But anyway, let's bring in Mr. Richard Bates, Manulife President and CEO. Richard,
Good
welcome to
morning.
the program.
Thank you very much, Cito, and thank you very much for the warm welcome. I will start by saying that you are the only Cito that I know. So a lot more special in my life than I might be in yours.
No, not to disparage the namesake Richard, but there is a legendary Richard Bates in the Philippines. He was an American cockfighter,
Really?
and he made the rounds with the millionaires, and he was a force to reckon with. And like you, I'm sure you perhaps are going to be a force to reckon with in the field of insurance. Mind you, I do believe I am one of your clients, if I am not mistaken, because
Thank you.
I do have insurance, but the person in charge is my boss, my wife. So I
Yeah,
don't exactly know. I don't exactly know what type of insurance I have with your company, but in any case, you are the president and CEO of Manulife. Now, how has life been for Manulife because of COVID-19, etc.?
I mean, Cito, great place to start. And I think certainly the last couple of years. So I arrived here in August 2019, so just before the pandemic. And over the course of the last nearly 24 months now, I think the industry has seen a significant impact in some areas, but many positives in other areas. And I think it's fair to say it's exactly the same with Manulife. I mean, what we've seen over the past 20 months, we'd already started, for example, a digitalization journey prior to the pandemic. And this current, the periods of lockdown, some more stringent than others, have really led to an acceleration of some of our programs. But what hasn't changed is fundamentally the need for insurance. And that hasn't changed at all in the market. And in fact, I would argue has actually become even more pronounced over the last nearly 2 years. And certainly through the next generations, the Gen Ys and the Gen Zs, as they're coming up, they absolutely know the need for insurance. So as an organization, we've been remarkably resilient. We've managed to weather through the changes very much like a lot of others in the industry. And I think this is one of the strengths of the life insurance industry. For example, we've been here nearly 115 years. And so we've seen an awful lot over that period of time. And this is another challenging period, but one that I'm absolutely confident that both just us and the insurance industry will be able to get through.
Yeah, but Richard, what is the strength or what is the strong area of Manulife? Because there is life insurance, there is educational insurance, etc., etc. I have to confess, I am not well versed in this field. But where are your strongest
Sure.
points?
Yeah, I mean, I think where we help our customers the most is making sure that they are protected. And that is essentially taking out the financial fluctuations that happen when there is a major impact in their life. It could be a loss of life in the family, which has led to a main income earner not being with us any longer, or it may actually be the main income earner themselves having a critical illness. And our important is to make sure that priority is to make sure that protection is in place for the family. So if an event were to happen, either the policyholder is living or unfortunately maybe we've lost them, then we are there to make sure that the family. So this is really our strength. There are other players in the industry that might be more focused on medical and medical reimbursement. That's not so much our area. Our area is mainly on critical illness. It is on health protection. It is on death benefits, as well as on making sure that if nothing happens to you at the end of your policy life, you have an investment pool that may be available to you at the end if you need it.
Well, I do recall now that one of our investments is something that will cover to pay off because years before the taxes on real estate property, estate taxes were so high that you had to have a backup fund just to pay off the taxes on your estate, and that's why we went to Manulife to make a placement to hedge against that tax thing. But thankfully, the taxes have been liberalized, so we're kind of okay. We're now where you said a backup pool in case something happens. Now, uh,
Exactly.
with COVID-19, people have died, so that's part of what you cover. People have lost fortunes trying to pay hospital bills, etc. What other packages does Manulife have in terms of meeting the challenges that you discovered in the last almost 2 years?
Yeah. And I think what we've done over the last 2 years is we've always had packages that allow for critical illness protection, which I think is one of the major areas because you're more likely to have a critical illness before you pass away. The
Mm.
probability of that is very high. Whether it's cancer, it could be cancer, diabetes, it could be liver, heart, lungs, any of the kind of the living activity-based critical illnesses that could occur. And what we've done over the last year is we've released a new policy, a new product, which essentially allows, it's called Health Flex, which allows you to be able to essentially design the type of health and critical illness package that suits you at your stage of life. If you're young, you might be buying a particular package that suits you in your 20s. If you're older, in your 30s, 40s, you might structure it a different way. And that allows you to have a focused policy predominantly on critical illness protection. And that's become very popular over the last year and a half. We've certainly seen that really that interest, because as you say, if something happens and medical bills can become incredibly expensive. And so making sure that you are staying ahead and making sure that you're protected in the possibility that something happens is absolutely essential.
Richard, because as I listen to you, the more I realize how ignorant I am regarding packages, and what's available out there. I didn't even realize that you could design packages to meet your lifestyle or your age gap. But how informed or aware are Filipinos regarding this sort of thing? Like beginning from people my age down to Gen Y, X, Y, and Z.
I think, it's a great question. I think the level of kind of how informed clients are depends largely on, do they have someone who's working in the industry? Are they working in the financial industry or not? And so it depends on their background. But on the whole, part of our role, and certainly the part of our role of our insurance agents, as well as our advisors and our bank partner, is to make sure that we are advising people at the point to make sure they buy what they need. For some people, they may actually have enough protection, and what they need is an investment related product. They might need something for something for their education scheme for their child, so that when their child reaches 18 years old, they've got a summed pool that is available for them when the child goes off to university. That may be a need. So part of what we do is actually spend time with our customers to actually ask them, where are you in your life stage? What are you looking for? What are the challenges you're facing? What is keeping you awake at night? And by investigating and spending time with our clients, we say, okay, we think for you, this area, you're probably okay. You're probably protected enough. This area, you might want to be able to strengthen a little bit. We can design a product that's more suitable for that. And so part of the journey and spending time with an insurance advisor is to be able to identify specifically what you need. They will then help you shape and find what is suitable, and actually help you potentially answer questions you may not have thought of yourself as well.
Okay, the thorn in the side or on the foot for many, as far as in advisors and agents are concerned, in the past, is that many of those who were agents or sellers or advisors didn't know what they were talking about, and they were
Okay.
only interested in selling the policy or closing the deal and bye chap, good luck to you.
Mm.
How does Manulife ensure that none of that happens, and that the people that represents the company and their products are actually well trained and monitored?
Yeah, Cito, you're absolutely right. And for us to have an insurance advisor meet with a customer, they have to be prepared. They have to have gone through very rigorous training. They would have had to be licensed by the Insurance Commission. They would have to pass all the exams and be continually tested. And so it's not that you prepare someone and then send them out into the field and meet with clients. You bring them back in the first 100 days on a regular basis. After that, you bring them back in again every month for the longest period. Right through the first 1 to 2 years of their career, we have very rigorous training programs. Because even when they get to a certain point and they're comfortable selling a certain area of product, they do need to understand the other elements and the other needs. They might have friends and family, they might have clientele which are around their similar age group. And it's important for them to be able to speak a similar language for people who may not be in their sphere of influence. And that takes further training and further development. So this is an ongoing journey. And obviously, there may be occasions where people meet with an advisor who isn't versed, and that has happened in the industry in the past. I think what we try and do is make sure that we continue to train, continue to develop, and make sure that our insurance advisors are always up to date on not just the products, but also the needs needs of customers, which do evolve and they do change with time as the new generations come through. They need to be prepared to speak a different language at times.
Okay, now I've got to ask you some questions. We're going to have to speed date on this one, Richard,
Okay,
because we will run out of time. Please
sure.
explain difference between life insurance and term insurance.
Okay, term insurance is a type of life insurance. So, term insurance is essentially at the end, there's a trigger event, which is a death, and then there is a payment that comes out at the end of that, and that's called term insurance. Now, term insurance is a type of life insurance among a number of other products.
Okay, well, what happens if you stop paying because you no longer have income, which happened a lot during COVID? A lot of people lost their jobs. Do they just lose the policy?
It depends on the nature of the policy. Some of them possible, other ones you might have enough account value to keep it running for a period of time while you take a premium holiday, with a view that you might be able to return back to paying the policy. And so it depends entirely on the design of the policy, and that's where we can design it depending on the specific needs of individuals.
Can you actually go to the company representative and say, I'd like to renegotiate? You have to excuse me. Like I said, I'm igno on this one. When you've got a mortgage and something happens and you kind of take out a second mortgage or something like that. Is there such a condition? You seem to have like premium holiday thingamajiggy.
Mm. Yeah, so there are times when clients will come back and say they want to restructure and have a look at what their policy is. You can potentially, if it was designed for a particular period of time and maybe you're in a different stage in your life, you can come back and have a different conversation. We will tell you and be able to advise whether it makes economic sense or not. Not all policies make sense to potentially lapse or change or reinvest them into others. Some may do. So it depends entirely on what's been bought and the reason why. But we're always open to have that conversation and see whether people do. Normally, what happens is over time, when people's lifestyle changes and they start obviously economically develop, what they're earning in their 20s to what they're earning in their 30s, more often than not, they'll come back and say they want to do a top up, they want to increase the policy, they want to add to the existing policy because when they bought it, they had one child, now they've got three children, and so they generally look to kind of restructure because their family and their life needs have changed.
Okay, now, do you offer annuity insurance, paying lump sum and get income for life?
We do offer certain policies that allow for annuity style, and so it depends. Again, depends on the nature and depends on the person. But there are certain policies that allow for types of structures around that.
Okay, what about well, this is my question. You suddenly got me interested. What about old goats like me? I'm
Oh,
still productive. I still earn an income, but I'm empty nester.
yeah.
Is there a package that guys like us can? Hey, maybe I'll call Mr. Bates and get something for me in addition to whatever else I have.
Yeah, I mean, Cito, and I'm not going to use you as an example on this one, but generally speaking, when people get to a certain age, it depends on what they're looking for. And obviously, if they're closer to retirement or they have already retired, it also depends on what the family situation is. So sometimes what we find is people might be coming to us and realize that actually they've got enough protection for themselves, but what they often do is they buy insurance and they buy policies for their children. And so the policy can be held by the parent, paid for by the parent, but in fact protects the children. So if I can use myself as an example, I have four
Mm-hmm.
children, and I've reached the point where, in fact, I made the decision to buy four policies, critical illness policies, for all my four children, because now they are young and they're much more affordable to buy it for them when they're young, which will
Mm-hmm.
then I pay for 10 years and then it is available for them for life. So it's a way of passing on your legacy, a way of passing on some of the hard work that you've developed and earned onto the next generation, if you feel that you have enough protection yourself.
Okay, that word caught me. If you feel you have enough protection for yourself, because it's not just protection. From what you've said so far, it's also an investment. It's a form of security. Is there a point where a person has more than enough investments and in terms of insurance, or should people just keep because I the bankers are gonna hate me, but and the medical insurance people will hate me. But in terms of life insurance and this sort of thing, this seems to have a better return.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of what is enough, I mean that is a very personal question, and for some people, they realize they hit what is enough at an earlier age. Some will take longer to get to that point, but ultimately, we can work with clients and say, okay, well, how much are you earning? What are your expenses? Where do you think you will need to be? How much protection will you have and savings? And what kind of lifestyle do you want to be living once maybe your income drops after a certain point? Let's not say retirement. Maybe you do other things instead of working full time. You might do a part time, and so it depends on what the lifestyle is and what your costs of living are. Also, we can map that against where health costs are going, where the expenses, especially around critical illness payments, are looking like in the industry. And then we can essentially see, depending on someone's life goals and depending on what is the cost of living at a particular given point in time, we can then see whether they have enough of what they're looking for. So having enough depends very much on the individuals. I think there are a lot of people who will continue and continue, not realizing if they have enough, because everyone always wants a little bit more, right?
Mhm. Okay, now what about low income people? Let's peg the minimum at 5,000 a month, or 5 or 7,000 a month monthly salary. Is there any chance that they could actually put away money or be enrolled in one or two, or do you even have a program for those type of people?
Yeah, so we do offer insurance policies for they're more the lower end of the middle class. It's hard to say if they're earning about 5,000 pesos a month. They'd probably be earning closer to around 20 to 30,000. That's probably about the lowest that we go. I Could we sell a policy to someone earning five? Feasibly, yes. But affordability is really important. We absolutely don't want someone to spend all of their income on insurance. They have to still put a roof over their head, food on the table, send children to school, all of these everyday costs of living, which are very, very important. And this is what we take into account when, whether someone is overextending themselves on buying a policy, we need to be very careful of as well. So affordability is critical. And so for us, there are policies available in the industry, and there are companies that provide for lower income families, and they are available. We tend to go to income families, which are on average, maybe at the lower end, is probably around 20,000 a month. Would be about where we would think that the affordability is
Yeah.
reasonable for their family.
If a person is at the 20,000 a month level, or I don't know, I'm being crazy here, Richard, okay, because I'm trying to find options and solutions. At
Yeah.
20,000, how much do they have to set aside to have a package for insurance?
Well, typically we would say you want to limit it in terms of your monthly pay. Not really, you don't want to be going much more than about 10%, maybe 15%, depending on your level. Now, obviously, if you have a lot more disposable income, then it's more affordable to be able to start taking higher packages on a monthly basis. Now, typically, what we would advise people to do is, depending on what their cost of living is, how much is their disposable, and then you take a percentage of the disposable, and then that's what you would decide to put it towards insurance. So we can offer policies which are around 12 to 15,000 pesos a year, which works out to be about 1,000 pesos a month, thereabouts, a little bit more. And so that's where we would suggest that is the lower end
And
for the
for how
market that
long?
we work.
For how many
Sorry.
years? For how many years?
It could depend. I mean, generally, that we could design a policy that is 5 years long. We could go with 10, 15 years. It depends on what their needs are. And obviously, of course, over the course of 10, 15 years, someone who's earning 20,000, that income will increase over that period of time, which brings me to the other point of then looking to make sure you constantly review your insurance requirements as you go through life.
Okay, let me just butt in here for our viewers, the parents, and the sons and daughters. If you have kids who are already working, earning, but still living with you, not paying electricity, not paying for food or rent, at least make them invest in an insurance policy, whichever is to their liking or fits their lifestyle, because the end of the day, when we are dead and gone, we don't have to kick ourselves in the coffin saying, I should have made them buy a policy.
Yeah.
So, and then the 10-15%, that's 2,000 to 3,000. As long as you don't fight, you don't bet on online rooster fights, and you don't buy the latest phone every year, you
Yeah.
are better off buying insurance. Okay, Richard, Manulife seems to have earned a great reputation as a preferred company for professionals, the go-to company to find a job or work with. And in this day and age of the great resignation phenomenon, how does your company manage to do it?
Well, different facets. So if I start with our corporate staff, I think one of the key things is to make sure that people are reminded of the purpose of what we're doing here.
Mhm.
People still need insurance. People still need to be protected. In fact, now more than ever, the criticality of this is very high, and so giving our people, reminding them of the purpose and the goal that they have. We could work in most places. Most professionals have an opportunity, but if you get a chance to go in on a Monday morning and actually change lives and have a positive impact on society, that's even better in my mind. And so making sure that the team and the people reminded of this, but also that we are constantly serving the customers. That is why we're here. And reminding again that for our staff that this is what we're here to do, and keeping that front and center of everything just keeps people focused and motivated and energized. Beyond that, it's just making sure, honestly, we have fun. We enjoy ourselves. We love what we do, and we love working with each other. And that creates an environment and atmosphere where we are supportive. We're supportive for ourselves, really, for the good of the customer. Now,
Well,
that's on the company. Sorry,
you
go
have
ahead.
the Fuel Up Fridays, Thank You Day, five
Yeah.
additional personal days in 2021 and 2022, Global Afternoon of Reflection and Learning. I mean, are you one of those disciples of Google?
No, thank you. I think our approach to this is recognizing that our customers have gone through a challenging period, no doubt. Our people have also gone through a challenging period, and making sure that, as you know, when you're working from home, it's not always that easy to switch off. It's not the same as having a 2-hour commute or 1-hour commute where you can switch between the office and home.
Mhm.
You maybe have children in the background. You may be helping them with their schoolwork. And all of this takes toll on stress levels and our mental health. And making sure that our people are still focused and still energized so they can be there for the customers remains absolutely paramount. So really, to us, it's about saying thank you. Thank you for the extra hours. Thank you for the extra hard work. And thank you for helping us look after our customers.
Okay. I don't know if I just missed it or I just asked too many questions, but I asked you earlier about the Gen Zs.
Yeah.
Apparently, your company has been paying close attention to them. What discoveries have you made regarding the investment mentality, insurance awareness of Gen Z?
I think, I mean, we wanted to understand a little bit more. So we did a study called Know Your Ys and Zs, and it gave us a chance to give us some pretty good insights. One of the key conclusions that came out is Generation Y and Z, and let's focus on the Z, are still very, very focused on making sure that they have a stable income, a stable lifestyle. And then they are able to, as I say, look after their future and make sure they protect for it. They still have the dreams and aspirations of every other generation. It hasn't changed. It's just how that manifests might be slightly different. And so what we found is that their focus on making sure that they want to buy, at most Ys and Zs, about 80% of Generation Zs, and a little less, about 60%, 50, 60% of Generation Y, have actually bought insurance as one of their key investment classes, as their almost their first investment. And then later on, they might branch out to other types of investments. So they're still very focused. And again, those we surveyed, we know that about 90 to 95% of them are planning on buying insurance in the next 12 to 24 months. And so as the generation comes up into the workforce, as they come through and they still have their same goals, making sure that they have that investment protection, making sure that they're looked after, still remains very top of the mind for them.
Okay, so that's going to be very good for business.
Yeah.
But in terms of making that decision or having that awareness, is that something that was taught them, or is that because of the industry messaging on the need to invest on insurance?
Yeah, I think actually got both two sides here. I think the industry messaging around the importance of insurance has continued. Notwithstanding, they might have seen other family members go through difficult times and recognize those with insurance and those without. So this all plays into how someone thinks. The difference, though, between, for example, a Gen Y and Z versus a Gen X or maybe a baby boomer, is the access to information is much greater than ever used to be. So the
Mm.
searching and the digital and the access to searching online, identifying what is available, speaking to friends and family has become far more prevalent than it was in the previous two generations. So, making sure that we are there in the forefront of sharing this information, educating in a medium that Gen Zs appreciate and understand is been really one of our key focuses.
Okay, well, you know what, Richard? I think I'm going to impose on you and request that we have a part two, because this
Yeah.
is a sort of topic that can't be done in one program. And I myself have learned a lot. But please try to fit us into your very busy schedule, and let's have another go at this.
Cito, it'd be an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for the time.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Richard Bates of Manulife, for a very educational morning. And have a good day, sir.
Take care.
Okay. And we will go for a quick break. And after the break, we will speak with another pillar of business, Mr. Joey Concepcion. And let's get an update on how they are going to handle or address this development of the Omicron variant, and what's up with our plans to revive the flights from North America here on Agenda. Welcome back to the program Agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran, and you are watching us via Cignal TV channels 8 and 250. Joining us now, we have the CEO of the food giant group, RFM Corporation, founder of the Go Negosyo movement, ASEAN Business Advisory Council of the Philippines chairman, and also presidential advisor for entrepreneurship, none other than Mr. Joey Concepcion.
Good morning, Cito.
Good morning, Joey. And I don't know, I, I, the frustration is almost palpable. I was already thinking of, oh, New York, oh, LA. So, how are you feeling because of this Omicron variant, Joey?
Well, it's expected. We knew that this pandemic is not just about to end now. For as long as people remain unvaccinated out there, this threat will always continue. And this is why vaccines, not only in the Philippines, but the rest of the world, especially those countries that are somehow deprived of the vaccine, should be given these vaccines. No? So we can solve this not only in our country, but in the entire world. And variants will continue to prosper if vaccination is not implemented throughout the world.
Okay, now the World Health Organization representative in the Philippines has given a statement that, as far as WHO is concerned, they're not wholly supportive of mandatory vaccination. But in the Philippines, is that an option, or should we really get the local governments to step up and say, guys, no vaccine, no exit?
Well, it's not quite true because America has mandated vaccination for all its government employees, no?
Mm-hmm.
And the trend continues. Other countries in Europe now are mandating vaccination. I think nobody wants to mandate vaccination. In fact, initially with what the private sector bought in buying AstraZeneca, we bought close to 17 million doses and Moderna close to 9 million of the Razon group. We did not implement any mandate. We really used our persuasion skills not to really go down the rank and file and to convince them. But at a certain point in time, as we can see how our economy is faring out, the problem, Cito, is that we continue to borrow money to fund all these health needs that we have from vaccines, which will amount into the billions and even trillions eventually as this continues, booster shots and test kits, and the list goes on. No? And if your economy is not running, then how your GDP will be affected? If your GDP is affected, then the banks will be concerned because how are you going to eventually pay for this debt? It's like a company as we expand, we expect revenues out of this expansion through our capex. No, it's the same thing. So we all will lose in the end. And if the Filipino people now, especially that vaccines have arrived and are arriving in the millions, uh, this is meant for everyone to get vaccinated, and it's clearly the pathway to prevent us from locking down. No? Hospitalization is the factor that
Mm-hmm.
pushes the government to lock down when it hits full capacity. And we've seen clearly in NCR achieving close to 90%. And locking down in August 8th was the right timing for us to say the fourth quarter. And now we're seeing record low numbers. Now, is this for just the time being? Now that Omicron is at the midst, no, it's South Africa, this will start to spread to the rest of the country. We have to prepare for this. We cannot stop vaccinating. We have to even accelerate as fast as possible. And the usual 70% target may not be possible. We should go much higher now, no? To 80, 90%, and even 100% to fully insulate us to some extent against Omicron.
Okay, what steps or have you taken steps or are you meeting with business leaders to prevent government decision makers from just simply pushing the panic button? Because you guys work so hard, as you pointed out, you voluntarily went. Supported quarantine, and now we're picking up. The numbers are low, but just on the suggestion that there is a new variant, a couple of government officials immediately started making suggestions. Oh, let's go back to this, to that. How do we avoid, pushing or, pressing the panic button and addressing this, rationally and strategically?
Well, the goal is to maintain alert level 2 as we speak. No, we don't we are not pushing for alert level 1 considering the situation at this point in time. At the current alert level 2, everybody is doing very well. Many businessmen, many entrepreneurs are doing fine, and this Christmas consumer spending is up. So we're happy to be where we are now. With regards to bringing down the quarantine from countries like North America and others that are qualified for this, it continues. No, it's a basically two-night quarantine here as you return back after taking a PCR. That has not changed. What has changed was allowing the foreigners fully vaxxed to come in. No, that has been postponed for the time being. This is an effort that Secretary Berna has pushed for, which is good because we want to bring back tourism. But the timing of such with Omicron out there, maybe it's good to just put a hold on that. But for Filipino balikbayans and Filipino residents coming back home on a reduced quarantine of 2 nights, that still continues.
Okay, so that program wasn't affected drastically. Now, is there an agreement between the private sector and the government so that when when decisions are made, that everyone is consulted, because I'm not trying to be judgmental here, Joey, but what worries me is when people start hitting the panic button, or close the borders, just without really checking what is the correct approach.
Well, I was able to talk to Secretary Duque yesterday, and we have on December 15 a public-private dialogue now discuss on how we can sustain this opening of the economy. I mean, everybody's enjoying robust sales and better consumer confidence. The consumers now are going out because they see that the cases have gone way below 1,000. No? And so that's buoying up confidence. Now, there's a this party can be spoiled by Omicron, and we have to be careful, about Omicron. So this dialogue will happen in our town hall of Go Negosyo on December 15, where all the stakeholders, from the restaurants, the spa, and different business establishments, and all the business organizations from PCCI, Filipino Chinese Chamber, we're putting this together to have this dialogue, and we have invited medical experts as well. No, but the common line here is that vaccines has to accelerate, and this is why the government had this 3-day national vaccination event, which was to encourage vaccination, not just in NCR, because in NCR we're at that 90+%, so we've hit the target. The challenge now is to get the balance of Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, these vaccination rates up, because vaccine hesitancy in these areas are quite high, at the 30% in some of these areas. So the local LGUs, governors, mayors, and of course, key here is the barangay captains, have to really put the pressure on. No? Now, of course, the government is releasing the guidelines on tomorrow, I believe, on that all unvaccinated on-site workers will have to take a PCR test every 2 weeks. No? I think this is where some people are saying this is discriminatory. I think the government is now really seriously concerned about the situation. And with Omicron, vaccine mandates may have to be done by IATF in such a way in these on-site workers that will have to take the PCR test 2 weeks if they continue to remain unvaccinated. That's going to cost the worker about 50 to 60,000 pesos annually. No? So if he doesn't want to take the the vaccine, then we will now have to implement that under the IATF rules, which should really push the workers to take the vaccine. And I think that's the goal of the government, to really achieve a high vaccination rate. What we're after here, Cito, is the common good. It's not
Yes.
just for the few.
Okay, now, I guess my last question, Joey, what about the face shield issue? Because 3 cabinet members or IATF officials have already said that as far as they're concerned, they would like to go with the reimposition of face shield. Is this going to be cumbersome? Is this going to be irritating, annoying, or a problem for the private sector? Or will they embrace this or resist it?
Well, yeah, if they put it as a mandate, then we have no choice. But I personally don't believe that face shields are really required. I think what's very important is a face mask. I mean, I think that that is something that we will have to use indefinitely. And that's a common practice all over the world now. Face shields. I mean, if it's an added protection, I have my own opinion on that. But maybe in certain areas like hospitals or very confined spaces, they can look at that. But face mask compliance to me at 100%, and using the right face mask is the most important. And of course, social distancing, and to me, ultimately, vaccination. No?
Okay, well, thank you very much for your time, Joey, and congratulations. At least this far, you brought us this far, the private sector, and we have managed to open our doors to the public. The businesses are open, and I surely am looking forward to seeing you guys in Boracay one of these days. And I hope
That's going to
this.
happen.
Okay, well, looking forward to seeing you at the beach, my friend, and
Thank you.
thank you for your efforts.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, that's Mr. Joey Concepcion of Go Negosyo, RFM Group, and the guy who has been consistently pushing for solutions and strategies to get us all back out there earning our incomes, running our businesses, etc. Let's just all pray that at the end of the day, we are able to manage. And just my point here, let's not panic. If we need to take precautions, then let us do so. But please listen to what the data says, what the reports are saying, etc., from the epicenters, and not just say shields down. Hindi po dapat para kayong Star Trek. Okay, let's go now to our daily blessing for the week. God is able to bless you abundantly so that in all things at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work from 2 Corinthians 9:8. And I'm thanking you for joining us today here on Agenda. Please keep it here on One News PH.